Once upon a time, in a small village within the kingdom of Baharistan, there lived a poor potter named Nasir Bakhta. Every day he worked diligently, kneading clay to create beautiful pots. In the evening, he would load his products onto the back of his loyal donkey and travel to the city to sell them. Though life was filled with hardship and struggle, Nasir remained honest and hardworking. Not far from the village was a dense forest, home to a ferocious lion. This beast had attacked villagers and their livestock many times, spreading fear among everyone. The villagers had tried repeatedly to trap or drive it away, but all attempts failed. Eventually, they became so frightened that they dared not step outside after dark. While others lived in fear, Nasir continued his daily routine. He dug clay, kneaded it, dried it, and then fired it in the kiln, day after day, like a well-rehearsed ritual. For Nasir, even in poverty, life held meaning if one lived honestly and gave their best. He had no idea that his simple life was about to become the beginning of an unexpected and extraordinary turning point. One evening, after a long and tiring day in the city, Nasir was so exhausted that he didn't tie his donkey in the stable as usual. Instead, he tied it to a tree in the yard and went inside to rest. At the same time, a violent storm suddenly swept through the forest. Strong winds uprooted large trees, and thunder and lightning shook the entire area. The terrified lion, who was out hunting, panicked in the storm. Searching for shelter, it found an abandoned hut near the village and rushed inside to hide. Exhausted and frightened, it curled up in a corner and quickly fell asleep. Meanwhile, Nasir was jolted awake by the sound of heavy rain. He suddenly remembered his donkey was still tied outside. Fearing it was getting wet or might be in danger, he rushed out into the storm. When he reached the tree, the rope was broken, and the donkey was gone. Nasir panicked. Despite the pouring rain, he was determined to find his donkey. After nearly an hour of searching, he reached the abandoned hut. There, in the dim light, he saw a large figure lying motionless. Believing it was his donkey, Nasir was unaware he was about to face a fateful encounter that would change his life forever. As a flash of lightning lit the sky, Nasir caught sight of the large figure lying at the hut's entrance. Thinking it was his stubborn donkey, he joyfully exclaimed, "There you are, you foolish animal. I've been looking for you in this rain for over an hour." Without realizing it was a lion, he approached and angrily slapped its head and back 24 times to punish it for running away. Still terrified from the storm, the lion was now being scolded and beaten. It was utterly horrified. In the darkness, it mistook Nasir for a powerful human capable of killing it. Out of fear, the lion obediently remained still. Nasir tied a rope around its neck, climbed onto its back, and rode it home as if it were his donkey. Upon arriving, he tied the donkey to a tree in his yard as usual and went to bed, completely unaware that he had just subdued one of the most fearsome beasts in the region. The next morning, as villagers began to leave their homes, they were shocked to see the infamous lion tied in front of Nasir's house. Someone shouted, "It's the lion! The one that's been terrorizing us for months." News spread rapidly, and Nasir Bakhta's name quickly became legendary, hailed as a hero who had captured the beast with his bare hands. That morning, the sun had just risen when villagers walking past Nasir's yard froze in astonishment at the sight of the lion chained to a tree. One cried out, "It's the lion! The very monster that's killed so many of our livestock and terrified us for months." Word spread like wildfire. People from all around came to see. Everyone admired the potter who caught a lion with his bare hands. They praised Nasir's courage and called him a hero and savior of the village. Nasir was bewildered. He scratched his head and honestly said, "I just brought my donkey home." As he stepped closer, he was stunned to realize it wasn't his donkey. It was truly a lion. Fear and confusion flooded over him. He couldn't believe what he had done. At that same time in the royal palace, King Daragul was deeply worried about a looming threat from the neighboring kingdom of Dagestan. The enemy had a large and powerful army. The king needed a brave and daring commander to lead his troops. During a war council, Chief Minister Fate Jang suddenly stood and declared, "Your Majesty, we need not look far. The man who just captured a lion with his bare hands is the warrior this kingdom needs, Nasir Bakhta, the potter." The minister's suggestion left King Daragul astonished. A common man who had caught a lion? That was truly extraordinary. Without hesitation, the king sent messengers to summon Nasir Bakhta to the capital. When Nasir received the message, he thought it was a joke. Stammering, he said, "Me? Command the army? I'm just a potter." But a royal order could not be refused, so Nasir prepared for the journey to the palace. At the palace, King Dara Ghul welcomed him with great honor and instructed him to return the next day to officially assume command of the army. Nasir left in a daze, his mind spinning. He muttered to himself, "All this because of that donkey. No, that lion. If it hadn't shown up, I'd still be shaping clay right now." He got home. He vented his frustration at the lion, still tied in the yard. "It's all your fault. If you hadn't pretended to be a donkey, I wouldn't be stuck in this mess." His wife smiled gently and said, "Don't complain. This is our good fortune. Perhaps this is the beginning of better days." Hearing her words, Nasir nodded slowly. Though still anxious, he realized he had no choice but to face his fate. He would step into his new role as a military commander, even though he had never wielded a sword or spear in his life. The next day, Nasir Bakhta returned to the palace with his wife and officially took command of the army. Though deeply uncertain, he did his best to stay composed. Standing before thousands of soldiers, he heard his wife's voice echo in his mind, "Have faith. God will guide you." Taking a deep breath, Nasir began to act as though he were a real general. Unlike typical commanders, he had no formal strategy or training, but he brought with him honesty, creativity, and a fresh way of thinking. Soon, word arrived. The powerful army of King Ranguja was approaching. Nasir knew that he couldn't win through sheer strength alone, so he devised an unusual but clever plan. He ordered his men to gather all the donkeys, horses, and cattle from nearby villages. As night fell, he tied burning torches to their backs and released them toward the enemy camp. From a distance, the moving lights looked like an enormous army advancing through the darkness. The enemy soldiers panicked, thinking they were being attacked by overwhelming forces. They fled in chaos, leaving behind their weapons and supplies. Thanks to this cunning trick, Nasir achieved victory without spilling a single drop of blood, and his fame spread far and wide. After this unexpected triumph, Nasir Bakhta thought of ways to maintain his advantage. He knew that fear could be more powerful than weapons, so he cleverly planted rumors to shake the enemy's confidence. He deliberately spoke loudly in front of his officers. "Our soldiers train by wrestling lions. Only the strongest survive." Though it sounded outrageous, a spy overheard and reported the statement back to the enemy. When King Ranguja heard the news, he turned pale. How could he possibly defeat an army trained to fight lions? And their commander was the very man who had once captured a lion bare-handed. The entire court of Dagestan was thrown into turmoil. Realizing that victory by force was impossible, King Ranguja changed tactics and proposed a peace negotiation. After several days of discussion, both sides reached an agreement, and the war was officially called off. Back in Baharistan, the kingdom erupted in celebration. King Dara Ghul was overjoyed and declared a grand festival to honor the peace. He rewarded Nasir Bakhta with gold, land, and a high position in the royal court. From a poor potter, Nasir had become a renowned commander, living in honor and wealth. Yet even with his newfound status, he remained humble, always grateful for life's blessings, and never forgetting where he came from.